get to the second page. I was hoping that Rob or Greg would be on here today with us. Uh, my answer was here. When I took it in becoming an instructor, there were valuable experiences. I had a great mentor, sort of resonating those first three. But it was actually having a project where I implemented it that it actually made sense to me. Right? I was doing a turnaround, and I started going and talking to customers and listening to them. And I ended up building a strategy based on how the markets had changed and where they evolved. And I was doing market focused product management before even having the title. I was a director of marketing at the time. So for me, it starts getting into the application of it. Uh, Greg Fenton is what was the next answer. I was thrown into as the head of systems architecture, software integration for a complex Navy system. And basically, this is interesting because the way he's talking about what he did with the Navy and the system makes me think about how product management is becoming more viable in project-based companies, the internal project IT teams building stuff, because he was dealing with stakeholders. He was dealing with budgets internally and selling things to understand the needs to get them done. But he also believes that moving into product management with starting with a 101, not a 1010. God, I did it early this morning. I should have had my coffee first. What was a key way to go? I'd like to use this just as a chance right now to show myself again. Steve, let's talk about product management in an IT system and how we're seeing more and more of them embrace the concept of product management and how product development could be key for that.
Yeah, I'd say over the last 10 years, but certainly very much over the last two, I've gotten more and more requests from people who say, we've come to realize two things. One is we've finally got Agile working, and we realize we can now build the wrong thing faster than ever. And so now we're ready to go upstream. We really need to make sure that we're building the right thing. That's one aspect. And the other is they've come to realize that projects never end. I mean, even something simple like we're implementing Marketo, we're implementing Salesforce. Okay, there's no end of that. You don't say, okay, fine, it's installed, walk away, because as soon as you get it implemented, there's enhancement requests, there's new updates, there's all sorts of changes you have to make. And just like in product management, there's 10 times as many more requests than there are resources. So we need somebody to do those things that you would expect us to do, have a vision for what we're trying to accomplish, a prioritization scheme to make sure we're working on the most important things. Just because one sales guy asks for a feature doesn't make it a good idea unless it affects all, customers or all users. So it actually goes way back. The first time I really went down this path is I was doing a training for the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints. And it was in Salt Lake City, and I had a great time. But beforehand, I called them. I'm like, are we going to be okay here? I mean, I'm going to be talking about running this like a business. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're on board with that. Super group of people, had such a great time. And I'm like, I don't know if some of this stuff applies to you. Like, do you need a launch plan? And they're like, absolutely need a launch plan. We're introducing new things. We need all of the wards and to embrace them and understand how to get them. And it was just fascinating to me for my first experience working with, central IT, if you will, that they were already a decade ago, maybe even 15 years ago, thinking of product rather than project management.
John, I'd like to go to you. And I don't know. This is me asking a discovery question. In your time with leading Agile, did you guys when you were consulting, were you consulting with all products teams in a product organization, or did you work some with IT departments that were doing Agile that needed to figure out product management?
It was a little more the latter. Or product groups that existed within those IT organizations as part of a broader transformation.
How did you see that transformation happening with?
Go ahead, ask the question again, sorry.
I was going to say, how did you see that? How did you help them with that transformation? How did you help them develop into a better?
Gotcha, yeah, so to Steve's point at the beginning there about they're just doing the wrong things faster with the Agile development part of the transformation. we came in and created a series of frameworks and trainings and things like that to sort of help product organizations slot into agile development organizations. There's a lot of mindset shift, change management that has to happen there. Because again, like some of these other orgs we've been talking about, they were project focused.
Yeah.
And, you know, they would literally like create a team for a period of time for a project, and then that team would dissolve after the project was over. And we're like, that's actually never going to happen again. Like, you're going to create teams around capabilities or lines of business or something, and they're going to continue to work on those things basically forever. And so, you know, there's that sort of organizational shift that happens, and then there's the whole mindset shift, because again, people would get budget for a project.
Yeah.
So you have to change the way even money flows within an organization when you start making these shifts.
Yeah.
And, you know, it also really invites everybody to think, oh, these resources are not fungible. It just drives me insane that people go, oh, let's take a developer or a product manager or whatever from this thing and put them on that thing. And there's no need for domain knowledge or, you know, historical anything. And we're not making widgets here.
Yeah.
Right. So I continue less and less, but I do continue running into people who say, you know, they're constantly shifting their product teams, you know, moving product managers around, adding and removing developers from teams. And I'm like, every time you do that, you're completely stopping the team from getting anything done. And they're like, oh, no, we haven't found that to be true. I'm like, oh, well, go talk to your developers and you'll find that that actually is true.
Stop doing that and see if it doesn't get better.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.